All right, so last Sunday I got back from my amazing vacation, 5 weeks, and of course I had my laptop and my phone and so on with me, so don't worry, this isn't a talk about how life without technology will improve our lives. Instead, I want to talk about how focusing on getting things done and the small details matter and so on. And of course the talk is about Windows Phone 7 as well. So a quick example that everyone's pretty familiar with. So when you're on a summer vacation, like I was on 5 weeks, this gets pretty boring. So you get those times when you want to spice it up somehow. For me, it was taking a picture of some cool places that I was in and then send it to my colleagues who were stuck at the office, just to cheer them up a bit. So this is one of those pictures. And so usually about getting things done, so usually when you want to take a picture on the phone, unlock it, swipe it, go to the applications, camera, take a picture, and so on. So instead of that, I don't want to, when I'm on vacation, and I'm assuming normal people do it every day, want to focus on getting things done and not look at pretty transitions on the phone. So just pressing the camera button, taking a picture, and putting the camera back in your pocket will basically do that. So if I raise it, take a picture, like this, and it will basically leave my phone locked, so I can go and delete all of my old photos, for example, or go to my contacts and so on. I can just take pictures, and then if I want to do something else, I need to unlock it. So this is so it doesn't unlock in your phone and so on. So all of these small details really matter, and that's something I want to talk about today. So also a small confession, pretty stupid to do when this is recorded, but I said I got back on Sunday, so it's been 5 days and I haven't done anything at work and still got paid, assuming that you feel like this. I hope that you feel like this quite often. So now the big question that I think that everyone has on their mind is, well, I'm not going to say this, but you can read it. First of all, not a fanboy. Then my name is Drazen Dodik, aka Dick the Drazen. I study at Haaga-Heinola University of Applied Sciences. I'm going to start my second year in a few weeks, hopefully. I work at a company called Meteoriitti, which is located here in Helsinki in Kalasatama. It's basically a company that focuses a lot on Microsoft technologies, especially SharePoint. For me, SharePoint is not the love of my life. I prefer Silverlight, Windows Phone, and these type of things. I'm also a Microsoft student partner, and I'll let you guess what the lungs mean. So this talk is about rocking your socks off with Windows Phone. Now I realized, after naming this, that 45 minutes is not enough time to rock your socks off. So we're going to talk about Windows Phone application development. So we're not going to focus on games. We're going to give you a quick overview on what the phone does, a couple of demos, see how you can create your own applications and so on. We won't go into details about how to build applications and so on, because there are a ton of resources available, and if I just start writing code here, first of all, in 45 minutes, I can't build anything amazing if I have to explain every single line. Second, I assume that not many of you are too familiar with .NET platform, so we would have to go to extreme details. So at the end of these slides, I'm going to present you just some additional information where you can find guides and so on. So what I want to talk about is, first of all, hardware. So what does Windows Phone hardware look like? What type of things should you know if you are a consumer, developer, and so on? After that, I want to talk about the apps, how to build apps, what type of apps can you build, how do you work, how do you publish them, and so on. And then talk about the design side. So all of these are, if you think about Windows Mobile, all of these are pretty much opposite of what Windows Mobile had to offer. And of course, I'm going to tell you why I love the Windows Phone. Cheeky, eh? So we're going to start off with hardware. These pretty devices are actually Windows Mobile devices. So on Windows Mobile, you had different types of hardware. They looked different. You had a lot of choice of what type of hardware you wanted. Also, you had the software side, the design, the UI languages, and so on were completely scrambled. So you'd think that these are not like the same Windows Mobile phones and so on. Of course, those are some differences in those. So this is something that you see quite often. So you have a tremendous amount of choice on hardware, on the software side, and so on. And the opposite of this would be the iPhone. So it's the hardware is what it is, and then you have this consistent experience, which is, of course, creating a strong brand, but also creating a consistent experience for the users. Now, Windows Phone goes somewhere in the middle because it's trying to take the goods out of both sides. So as you can see on these phones over here, some of them are with keyboards, some swipe vertically, some horizontally. They have different shapes and so on, but they still have the same software side. They look the same, they're consistent and so on. So it's basically, for developers, you want to care about this because if you build an application for a Windows Phone, you don't have to worry about will I build it to LG or HTC or Samsung, or for which phone do you want to build? You just build for Windows Phone, and it's going to work on those. So that's a good thing. But then also, if you want to have a hardware keyboard, you can have one. Now, these are some minimum requirements for all Windows phones. So all of the current phones have a resolution of 480 × 800. Again, you don't have to test it with a ton of different resolutions. You test it with that one, and you make sure that it works. You have some sensors, some camera. All of these phones have these 3 hardware buttons. So that's the start, back, start, and search buttons. So with these, you navigate, search, and so on. Memory, again, there's a minimum spec on memory. How much RAM does each phone have to build? So if you build it against these specs, it will work against every Windows phone. Now, of course, you can always find a phone that has a ton of more power and so on. This doesn't limit what the phones look like and what type of performance they are. There are some differences between them with how powerful they are, what's the battery life, and so on. So you still have a lot of options and the option to choose the phone that's right for you. On applications, we're going to basically look at, again, Windows Mobile and a lot of other platforms often think of the developer as the king. So the developer decides when do they do something, how do they do it, how long do they do it, and do they want to interrupt the user or not. And this is kind of definitely not the right approach. On phone, we live in a sandboxed environment. So the user is in complete control. The user always knows what's happening without having this ton of different graphs showing that you are using this much CPU and GPU and so on. All of these applications run in this sandbox, so they can't go outside it. They can't go and send emails or send SMS messages without the user knowing. So if you want to send an email, for example, you would say email task, email compose task, initialize a new one, set up who you want to send it to, the subject, and the message. Now, instead of saying email task .send, you would say email task.show. And this would provide the same UI that the user would get if they went to Outlook, for example, and compose a new message. So it will have all the data over there, that the to field, the subject, and so on, but the user will have to press the send button. And that send button will be located in the same familiar place. So this is keeping the full control to the user instead of having developers do what they want and when they want it. How do you build these applications? Using Microsoft Silverlight. You might know it from the web. So Microsoft Silverlight was first on the web, then on the desktop, then elevator permissions on desktop, and now on the phone. The other option that you have is XNA. So with XNA, you would build games. Now, if you're interested more in Windows Phone and games, XNA, I would suggest looking last year's presentation. Teemu Haila had a great presentation on XNA. So looking at that and see how XNA works. Over here, we'll focus on Silverlight. So these applications, basically, when you build these applications, like the panorama, for example, which is this wide tile, again, this is technically nothing like amazing. It's just a big-ass block that you move around. But from a design standpoint, there are some pretty smart decisions in it. For example, I don't know if you can see this, but it actually clips it in a way that it shows a small part of the content that isn't showing. So if we didn't have this, if we clipped it just like 10 pixels over here, we would just see two columns over here. And then we would have to add some sort of arrow or something to navigate. So again, details. We're showing a bit of the content that's over here, telling the user that there's more content on the side. So small design decisions that are extremely important. I'm going to go pretty fast because we were late when we started, and we'll focus a bit more on the development side. On XNA, you can build games. There's Ilo and Milo and Zombies vs. Plants, Angry Birds, Assassin's Creed, and whatnot. So you can build 3D games, 2D games, and all of these will then go with Xbox Live and achievements and so on. All right, so amazing. Hello world. Every presentation needs one. On Windows Phone, like hello world type, like outputting, the idea was that like just finding out how to develop on that platform like quickly, just output hello world. On Windows Phone, the hello world application seems to be a map application, so we're going to build that quickly. So for this, I'm going to use Visual Studio and a Windows Phone application. There's a ton of different options over here. I won't go through these in details, but as you can see, you can create 3D applications, have 3D elements in them, and so on. Again, I'm going to just show you where you can find detailed information about these. So we're going to create a new application. And over here, you basically see this XML. Of course, it's renamed to XAML, which is Extensible Application Markup Language. So you use this to define your UI. Now what we're going to do, because we are a bit lazy today, we're just going to take the toolbox and drag and drop the map over here. And right-click and say Reset Layout and all. This will just fill it up. Nothing too amazing over here. And I want to name it Map 1. Now, I also want to use location data here. So I just don't want to just show a map. I want to have some location available. For location, you have to add a new reference to a new DLL, just because there's no need to pack that DLL to every single application, because not every single application will use location. So system device. And on Windows Phone in Silverlight, all of your UIs are defined by this pretty XAML that you see over here. Let me make it a bit bigger. So nothing too amazing in here. You have some grids, which are basically like tables. You have text blocks saying my application and page name. And then over here, you have another grid with the map inside it. Now, behind all of these XAML files, there is a C# file. So you use either VB.NET or C# to develop these applications. I'm just going to fetch the location information. For that, I need to use a thing called GeoCoordinate Watcher. And that's coming from, as you can see, it added using system device location. And let's just add it Watcher. And initialize it. Again, we're in .NET, we have garbage collection. We don't have to worry about removing these and so on. And in Silverlight, everything's an event. So basically, when you learn a button click, you know everything. So you have a position changed, and it's a lightning, signifying that it's an event. So magic of tab. So when you go to Visual Studio, you'll learn to love the tab, because if you just hit tab, it starts generating you pretty methods. So over here it says, initialize a watcher. When the position changes, we're going to go to this event handler over here. And in that event handler, we're going to say map1, which was the name of our map in our XAML. We're going to say that the center point is E, and E is coming from here, so it's event args. Under E, we find position and location. So this will now center the map to the location that we defined. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. The last thing that we need to do is say watcher.start. So just a few lines, and you got a map application that will update its position as you move along. Now, when you start up the emulator for the first time, it takes a bit because it's booting up the whole phone OS. But after that, you don't have to close it, so it just deploys the new version over there. What we're going to do here is, because we're using the emulator, we don't have like real location data. So that's why I hope we have apparently a network connection. We're going to use additional tools. So you can test like accelerometers over here. You would just use this to test it around. Or you can use location, and this would define where you are. And surprise, surprise, by default, we are in Redmond. So I'm just going to search for Pasila. And as you can see now, it says Pasilan silta, Pasilan katu, Ratapihan tie, and so on. So I'm just going to say that our current location is here. I did that, and now it's going black because it's loading. It's not so, the network is the best possible, but as you can see, it's loading, and now we are, so in this way we can simulate the location data. Of course, if I now take it and just, instead of the emulator, deploy it to the phone, it would use my actual location data. But again, the user is in control. They have to let my application use their location data first. I can also, like if you want to create some sort of a sports tracker, like this, and tell it that we're going to fire every 1 second on this path. So in this way, we could also test, like if we have several points to test out. All right, so that was basically Hello World on Windows Phone. Pretty quick map application with location data. Amazing, eh? So, next, we are talking about tools, apparently. So, all of these tools are completely free. You can download them from an address, create.msdn.com. The tools that you use are basically Visual Studio 2010 for Windows Phone and Expression Blend for Windows Phone. If you want to deploy to the phone, or if you want to publish your applications on the marketplace, you need a developer account now, and to develop and unlock your phone so you can deploy stuff to it. Now that costs $99 annually, but if you are a student, you can use a service called DreamSpark, register to DreamSpark, and then you'll get for free the developer account, and you can freely submit applications to the marketplace or deploy them on your phone. So DreamSpark is definitely, if you're a student, a great way to get free tools, like other tools than Visual Studio and Expression Blend, and then the developer account for your Windows Phone development. Next, we are talking about design. So on Windows Mobile, we had the thing that the hardware was way too scrambled. The API allowed us to do a lot of things, and that's the situation in a lot of platforms today. And also, the design language was basically hardware manufacturer do as you please. Now we have a lot more consistency. Now instead of I'm going to show you a video, but I'm not going to show you a Microsoft video. I'm going to show you another video. It's about 1 minute long. It's going to show you applications and I think show you in the best possible way what these applications look like and what's the design language on Windows Phone. Alrighty. So, someone with pretty words defined Metro as this. So Metro is basically a code name for this whole design language that we have on Windows Phone. Metro is basically just guidelines on how you should build your applications, how should they look like, what should the transitions do, and what type of things should you add to your application. The focus is on keeping it simple, so again, getting your tasks done, and realize that content and typography are your greatest design tools, so you don't need to have anything flashy in addition to that. So just smart decisions on typography, font weights, color, and so on, guide the eye and all these things, and then use content appropriately. So let's say, for example, the recent list on Windows Phone, like recently contacted people. Usually you might see something like a list and then an icon that would signify if you called them, text them, did you send them an email, and so on. Now, when I'm looking at my recent list, usually I don't give up about like how I contacted them. I just want to know who I contacted recently. And instead of that list, it's showing like the name and the picture of that user, if it's available. So again, using that content, those pictures, to create a personal experience for the user and still make it much more vivid and a better experience. We don't need special icons. We can just use the faces of those people. And I wanted to put this over here because a lot of times people look at Metro and they think that it's like you have to do your applications in this way. And then they think that Metro is about gray applications with white font and blue tiles with white icons. You should really understand Metro. There are some great documentation on this. But look for balance with your own style, like if you have a company branding or your own style, or how you want to build your applications. And I have an example of this. So this is a better basic weather application that you might see in the marketplace, for example. As you can see, it looks kind of like Metro-ish because it's simple and it has those Windows Phone style fonts and colors and so on. But really, it's quite dull. And then there's information like today's forecast. Like, I'm not so interested in what's the weather like every couple of hours. So this is an example of taking your own style and Metro and putting them together. So if you have a service on the web, for example, this weather application would have a website, take that same style, just Metrofy it. So again, making that bold and a different color would automatically, like the first thing that you see is 75. So, and that's the most important information that you look for in your application. Also, the forecast, like you might want to care more about the days rather than hours. And the live tile, you can like pin these live tiles on your start experience. So the live tile should also have some color and some life to it, and show the appropriate information, and again, use font for this as well. And also, Contoso is this sample company that Microsoft uses. But something to remember here is this sun and this background isn't just some random stock photo. It's a photo that automatically tells the user what's the weather like. So again, you don't have to use any special additional graphics. Focus just on the text and the content to make your applications look really pretty. So, time for a sexy demo with Expression Blend. So, Visual Studio is the one that you use when you want to work with C#, when you want to use databases, web services, debug, and so on. And then Expression Blend is when you want to do animations, all these type of things. So I'm going to show you Blend as well pretty quickly. Something that we're going to build is I'm going to show you quickly how to build an animation, and then use some sample data to build an application. So I'm going to start up and create a new project. Expression Blend is a tool that you use to design for desktop, web, and phone. Desktop and web the things that you have to buy Expression Blend to be able to do those. But phone, if you want to just design for the phone, it's completely free. Again, if you are a student, you can use services like MSD and AA or DreamSpark and download the free tools from there. So, going to create a new Windows project. And there's two versions. So 7.0 is the old one, and 7.1 is the one that's going to come now in the fall, codenamed Mango. Again, you see some project templates over here. Now we'll see the same design surface that we see in Visual Studio. Let me just zoom that out a bit. Page name, my application. So this is your basic Windows Phone application. And over here, you have a title panel. Inside that title panel, you have application title and page title. So these are just elements over here. I want to get rid of this and add something. Now, Expression Blend is part of an expression suite, which has a design tool, an encoding tool, and a web development tool. Now, something that was pretty cool that was added to Blend is import Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator files. So if you have a designer who's used to work with Adobe tools, you could just have them design the application over there and then import it to your Windows Phone in Blend. And this will convert, it will keep the text and the paths and all of these things, and it will fit it for your Windows Phone. So I'm going to show a really weird demo about this. So I have blenditlikeyoumeanit.psd. It doesn't have that much information. Basically, I took the assembly logo and I just took out the ladybug over there. And now we have that here on the top. And as you can see, it's nothing special. It's just images over here as well. If you had text, there would be text. If you had paths, there would be paths, and so on. Let me just make my ladybug a bit bigger so you can see it. See? 2 times bigger. That's good. Yep. And I want to do an animation. So the first thing that I'm going to do is create a path. So I want to create an animation that will basically make the ladybug follow a certain path. I'm going to start from here, then going to go down a bit, up a bit, and I'm going to add these points over here and here. And well, it didn't go just by the lines, but it doesn't matter. And now this is a normal path, and now we can make this into a path control, which will allow us to control the bug on that certain path. So we're just going to say, oh, see? Oh my God, the demo gods are not with me today. I did a mistake. I created a 7.0 application. Oh. Luckily, we have so much extra time that. So, no. Photoshop, and blend it like you mean it once again. And now you will see my amazing skills again. Path goes here and here. Right-click, path, and make into a layout path. Now we're just going to add the ladybug inside of that path over here. And let me just take those backgrounds away from the path. So we're just going to leave it empty. And now, if I make the ladybug a bit bigger again, I can start moving it around. So change the start point, but as you can see, it doesn't move too naturally. It's a weird ladybug. So we're just gonna flip it a bit, like this. So now if we move it, it moves on the path and flips when it should. All of these properties that you can see here, you can animate. So I'm just going to create a new storyboard. And in Silverlight, all animations, like in Silverlight, we don't use frames. We use just time-based animation, and then Silverlight will handle it. So you just tell it that at a certain point you should be here. Silverlight will then calculate on how it will get there. So we'll just say at 2 seconds, we'll go 100, so a circle. And now we can play this, and you can see the ladybug going. Now, this is like in design mode, it moves. Now we just have to do one more thing to have get it run on our phone. If we now run it on the phone, nothing happens because we have to start that animation. So I'm just going to say that when we click on the assembly, we're going to play the storyboard. And I'm going to press F5. It's going to build it and deploy it to the same emulator. If I press this, you see my amazing animation skills, and the ladybug moves. Hooray! So, next thing that we're going to do is, let me just take away that, is add some data into our application and do some themes and so on. So, usually when you are in a design application like this and designing your user interface, you don't have access to real data. Like in the beginning of a project, you might not have the database set up or access to it or populated with certain information. So that's why we have a function for sample data. And we're just going to say that we have a title, an author, and we have also image. So now for author, we're going to select that it's a type of a string. By default, it's going to say that it's lorem ipsum. But if we design our application, like usually it's not lorem ipsum, the name, so we're just going to select and select name from there. So it's type of a string, and it's going to generate us some names. For image, we're going to say that it's type of an image, and I'm going to use, you can either use the default ones, which are these pretty chairs, but I took some sample data from last year's assembly. And the last thing that we're going to do is title. We'll leave that to lorem ipsum and tell it that it's two words long. So now if we look at our sample data, you see what gets generated. So those are the images that I took. It generated some names for the authors and some titles for those projects. Now I'm going to drag and drop the image over here. And as you can see, we automatically have this type of a list. See it over there, it says list box over here. And we're going to just put the list box down here. And now I'm going to do something that's going to annoy people. So I'm using the beta of Windows Phone, the 7.1 version. So that's why I'm going to go search for a something. So a toolkit that will give me a bit of more controls. So Windows Phone, and I'm going to use the old one, the 7.0. So basically, just adding another DLL, which will allow me to use some controls that someone else made for me. So I can create these controls and then share them with people. And one of the things that I got from there is a wrap panel. So instead of having those items like that, I want to have them wrap. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to get rid of the... Now I added that on the items template panel, they will wrap. And I'm going to tell them, change each item's look a bit. So I'm going to make it a bit bigger, like that. And also, we're just going to set some data controls so it associates itself with data. So set tag behavior. Again, these are like, I'm just showing you basically how you could create these. I'm not giving you a detailed guide. I'm not expecting that now, I see how that happens. More like you see what the UI looks like and how do you work, and then point you to the direction to learn a bit more if you're interested. Okay, so we have all of our items here, and we want to have some sort of a details view. So I'm going to select from here details mode, and just add some information over here. I'm going to first add the title, so we see the title, and I want to add the author, like this, and then the image. So this is basically my details mode. Now, I want to make it a bit pretty, so I'm going to apply some default styles. And amazingly, it starts to look more Windows Phone-y when you have these colors and so on. And we're going to add, we set the tag, and now we're going to add the move behavior. In a second, you'll see what this means. So that was basically like creating sample data from, let Blend generate that data for us. And now we have the images down here. Now if I click one of these images, it will use a grotesque animation and show it over there. So when I change this, it's updates them from there. Now, you could, like you work on this in Blend, you're a designer, you work on this in Blend, and you use XAML and all these type of things to create your UI. And then someone else in Visual Studio, a developer, can tell that when the application is running, we want to actually use data that came from a database. Okay, so now if we just go to the main page, this is our page, we can just say edit in Visual Studio. Basically what this does is open Visual Studio, open the same application projects over there, and I can do edits over there, and they will be automatically synced. Running out of time here. What? No, it just tells that the connection to the device was lost because I changed the emulator. I deployed the application from Expression Blend. The emulator is still living down here or there. So I just pressed edit in Visual Studio from Expression Blend, and now it opens up the same projects, and I can do my C# in here, my designs in Blend, or have someone else do the C# and let me design. So the idea is that you use both of these tools to easily get stuff done, and also like they were designed for completely different people, so just keep that in mind. Okay. So a couple of words before we finish. There's a new version of Windows Phone coming, codenamed Mango. All current phones will be updatable to Mango. It will add some pretty cool stuff. I have just a couple of things over here. If you've heard about Windows Phone, you probably heard about things like tombstoning, and it doesn't support multitasking. You're wrong, and I'm not going to explain it over here. It supports multitasking. It always has. There's some can you use it or can you not? There are differences, but Mango will bring you this type of fast application switching. So if you press and hold your back button, it will show all of the open applications. Why open? Because actually it just takes a snapshot out of these. It keeps them in memory, but it doesn't run them, so they don't consume power or battery life. And that gives more power to the foreground application. I'm a bit late, but if you're more interested in multitasking, I'm going to be here for the next session as well, and also at the Microsoft stand below us here. Also integration with Twitter and all these type of things, Office, SharePoint, and so on. If you're a business user, if you're not, SkyDrive is pretty cool. So if you have a live account, you have 25 gigs of free space that you can sync over your PC, Mac, or Windows Phone. Browser updated to IE9, hardware accelerated, and all of the stuff that IE9 supports work on the phone. So wasn't a fan before, but I gotta say that the browser is pretty cool. podcasts, marketplace updates, these type of extras that will bring, like the user searches for something and it will tell, hey, you have this application by Drazen installed, do you want to use it? Live tiles, there will be like background transfer agents, so you can do stuff in the background. Again, this is handled by the phone in a way that it won't like drain the battery life completely or ruin the experience for the user. Updates to Outlook, Link, custom ringtones, RTL and Asian language support, and so on. Also, like you'll have access to UDP and so on, so Skype and Spotify and all of these are coming for Mangoes as well. All in all, there are like 1,500 API updates. New tools will be released to support these. So the things you saw the accelerometer and the location emulation, those are basically Mango tools. New devices. So there are quite a few hardware manufacturers that will bring devices. Some of them, a few of them were released. The specs, I mean, were released, not the actual phones. And of course, we've heard a wild rumor that Nokia might be doing something. So, fall 2011, be ready. I want to talk about the next session over here is about Kinect. Kinect is the, you look always this happy when you use Kinect, so you better stay and see how it works. So Teemu's going to explain on how Kinect actually works and how the development for that works. And one more thing. So there are a ton of contests running currently in assembly and in other places where you can win a Windows phone. So I suggest like trying the tools. You saw how fast it is to create some sort of mock-up application. Submit those. If you go to tietokoneet.fi, there's a contest that will basically do that blend sample data. You have to just install the tools and see how fast Blend will start up on your machine. Get a chance to win that. Over here, there's the Windows Phone competition that you can always also win a Windows Phone, and a ton of other, like Microsoft announced, create a prototype of an application that you think that is cool, and you might win a Windows Phone and so on. And hopefully now we all love Windows Phone. Right, so that's it for me. Continue the amazing adventure. Basically, I'm going to put the slides, and I have like directions to all of the resources. If I show you a ton of links over here, you won't remember them. So just remember the amazing Drazen.com. Go over there and improve your life. Thank you.